Hi everybody and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn. I'm joined by the fantastic Greta Larkins. We're going to have a fun stream today. We'll begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we're streaming and creating from today here in Australia, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Greta, it is so great to have you back on Adobe Live. How are you going?
I'm excited. Yeah, I am good. Warm enough, ready to go. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm trying to remember when we actually had you on. I think it was like really at the beginning of maybe 2020. So it's been some time. One of my favorite things were you had a delivery like during the stream. It's so cool. It's just imprinted in my memory because it was just at the beginning of like working from home life. And you're like, oh my God, someone's at the door. I have to get this. Otherwise they're going to take my groceries away. And I'm like, go get it.
I had to do it. I won't take any, if the doorbell goes off, it's an intense sound, but I won't take any deliveries today. I will stay here and I will be focused.
No, it's all good. But it's a very fond memory of mine. It's very funny. But yes, here with Greta Larkins. Hi everybody in chat. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching over on YouTube or anywhere else, jump over to the chat at be.net/live. That's where we're hanging out. That's the chat we're monitoring today. You can ask questions. You can say hello. Steve in chat and Johanna already have. It's lovely to have you here. So jump in. Let us know where you're tuning in from, hanging out with us. And yeah, we're going to have some fun. So Greta, illustrator/animator, is that your title? Is that how you see it?
So I actually don't do too much illustration, and when I do, I'm sort of cheating it. Like I might be taking something someone has provided and adding something to it that I need. But for the most part, I'm doing animation, a little bit of editing, a bit of retouching, and sort of putting all of those things together, usually in After Effects, to create assets that usually are going to Instagram, but sometimes I'm doing stuff for TV or for YouTube, but pretty much video exports. So even though I have the word GIF in my name and I used to make GIFs, I do less and less of GIF exports now. Though a client recently was like, hey Greta, can you make GIFs? And I was like, Can I? GIFs my second name. Yeah. But mostly video exports nowadays, which is great because you have so many more frames to play with than in a GIF. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. And I think the reason I was thinking Illustrator is because your agent is Jackie Winter, like very famous for having fantastic illustrators working for them. But of course they do so much more as well. So is that where you get a lot of your client work? Do you have clients coming straight to you? Do you work through, get a lot of work, Jackie Winter? Like how does it usually work?
Yeah, so a bit of both. I love doing work with Jackie Winter because they obviously have producers. So you have a middle person between you and the client, which is great. But I also deal directly with clients and existing clients that I've had for a few years, which I love as well. But yeah, Jackie Winter is great because often I get to animate their illustrators' work.
Right.
So I can do a little bit of illustration, but I'm cheating when I do it. I'm tracing. I'm not, I had a little exercise last year where I tried to draw animals from memory. And like I gave a sloth a tail. Like I'm not naturally, like my brain, it can illustrate. Like I could do a cute drawing for a kid, but that's sort of it. I'm probably at about like a 10-year-old sort of level doing it from memory, but on a computer I can create things, but often it's more to fill in the blanks these days. If a file's missing something, I'll slip it in. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That reminds me of the exercise. I don't know if you've ever done it or anyone in chat has done it where you sit there and they ask you to draw a bike from memory. You ever done that one? It's so hard and people draw the craziest bikes.
Yeah, because it's got all the things going through the middle.
Yeah, like the spokes. Like it's very bizarre. And you draw it and you go, I can draw a bike, of course, 2 wheels. Then wait,
then what?
Then what? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great. So maybe for those that might not be familiar with your work, it's been a while since we've had you on. Maybe we could check out some of your work before we jump into what we're going to get started with today.
Yeah, I would love that. I have got some videos here. These are all Instagram assets, I think. So they're all pretty brief in that sense. what I might do is, this one was for Benefit Australia. What I might do is play this one through and then have a little talk about what I was doing, what my goals were for this video. All right, here it is. So it's pretty fast, this one.
So it's for social, right? So it has to be fast. Yeah, we can see that. Yep, great.
Yeah. So we'll talk through, this is quite a good example of the type of work I get, where the client has a whole lot of assets that they want to integrate into a video. And then it's my job to go, okay, how do we get this to work with your brand, with the message that you want to get across, with the assets that you really want to integrate? Because sometimes you'll get a whole lot of assets and you'll be like, oh, I won't use that and I won't use that. And then the client goes, no, we really wanted you to use that. So you have to go back in and work out how to integrate it. So this had, the logo at the start, the pictures of the gamers, product. And so I use little glitch effects to show that things were changing.
Right.
And then the little the bar at the bottom to show that it has to do with, a game loading. And then it ends with that photo and logos, which is quite common, integrating brand logos. Other work that I do less for clients and more for myself is animating photos.
Right, yes.
So unfortunately I didn't get to do this for Beyonce. I wish. But I saw this photo and I thought, oh, this could be really fun. So it's an animation of the earring that she's wearing. And the way that I made that is each little round component of the earring is a different layer. And I removed that from the image. I recreated her skin.
Yeah, I was going to say, did she have the earrings on in the first place and you added them in? Or
yeah, that's the original photo.
Wow, okay.
And so this is all done with what's called parenting, rotation, anchor points, which we'll look at today. And then I did her skin, and her skin took hours because I'm not really a skin expert and I wanted it to still look like skin. I didn't want to retouch the whole image. And then, this is actually an example of me doing some illustration. I did this, I think, what's the date on it? Yeah, late last year for Time magazine. They had an article about the collapse feed on Reddit, which is really doom and gloom, everyone. Please don't go search it if you're having a sad day. It's not enough. It's a serious corner of the internet. But they basically wanted to recreate Reddit and how Reddit looks. So I sort of did this all. And the reason why it's in black and white is they needed it exported as a GIF. And if a GIF is in black and white, you can add more frames and get a smoother motion with a file that's not giant.
Right.
And if you look at it carefully, I've even done the numbers going up.
As it's going, it's still the numbers are going up. Yeah, that's cool.
And then I made the little Reddit face sad.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's a sort of, if I do illustration, it sort of looks like that.
Cool.
And then last but not least, this is an example of another illustrator's work that then I've animated.
It's not Georgia Perry, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So simple color changes, rotation. There's nothing groundbreaking here, but it works within the image.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
Also really proud of myself that I picked a workout from that.
Yeah. I'm impressed.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So do you have a lot of, we'll jump into it in a sec, but I just can't help but ask, like, do you have a lot of overseas clients, like, American clients? Like, is it Australian clients, Asia Pacific?
I used to have a lot of American clients and now they're more based in Australia. But every now and again I do work for, so like Time magazine is obviously America. Yeah, once in a blue moon I do have American clients, which I love, just because there's I think a slightly different way of working, which I really enjoy. But yeah, for the most part at the moment in Australia, which is easier with regards to the world clock and deliverables and stuff. But yeah, just a bit of a mix really.
Yeah, totally. I had a 6 o'clock morning meeting with some people in New York today, so I can relate to that. Yeah, dealing with West Coast and East Coast and then like your Australian day is often very, very challenging.
Yeah,
It's
LA's
a
a
lot of fun.
bit better because there's a bit more crossover.
Yeah, there's more overlap.
But there's times of year with like London and New York where it's just like, oh.
Exactly. Someone's always tired on the call.
Yeah, usually me.
Yeah, usually me too. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, well, let's jump into it. And I'll just remind people that have just joined us here with Greta Larkins, and we're going to be having a great time. We're here for an hour, and feel free to ask questions as we're going along.
All right, fantastic. So today we're going to start with a little bit of retouching and just pulling apart an image. I do need to warn you, this image looks a bit boring, but my goal for today and then for Thursday is to make something that's sort of like what a client would expect from a video. And so with that in mind, sometimes the assets that you get from clients aren't their absolute best images. Sometimes they might have taken a photo 2 years ago, and especially with the pandemic, they're kind of looking at these images and they're going, okay, this is all we have to use. What can you do to it to bring it, like give it a second life, basically.
Yeah.
You don't always get pictures or videos or fonts, whatever it is, stock music that you're obsessed with, but it's about taking it and going, okay, this client wants something really cool or really energetic. How can I do that for them? So I got this image of, where did I get it? Unsplash. So this is it here. And I am going to open with Photoshop.
Nice.
Alrighty, here we are. And I'm going to close my view of you, Flynn, so you can make faces at me if you feel inspired. I won't know. Okay, so this is Photoshop. I won't do too much beginner stuff, but if you are a beginner, I would suggest writing down some of the words that I use and then jumping onto YouTube or searching for tutorials to sort of get a bit more information. But one of the first things I like to do when I receive an image is look at how big it is, because that tells me how we're going to be able to use it down the track when we do bring it into After Effects. This image is 4,000 pixels by 5,000 pixels, which is pretty big.
Pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, which I love, because a big image is easy to retouch, is easy to manipulate. Now, ultimately in After Effects, we'll be making this file 1080 by 1920, which is the Instagram Stories format. So this means that we'll be able to reduce this image, but it also means if we want something to be large or to play with zoom, we can because it's so big. So we love big images, and that'll make a bit more sense down the track. But basically what I envision with this is that I want the pieces of orange to start behind the bottle, and then I want to do a little bit of animation with the label as well. And you would have seen videos like this before where the ingredients of the product sort of come from behind it. It's actually not an uncommon brief. I've done it twice now. So it's a good thing to play with, but it'll also show us the basics of, what am I looking at here? Position, rotation, scale, opacity that we use in After Effects. So I can tell from looking at this that the person who's created this photo has actually duplicated out the same pieces.
Oh, okay. So they're the same pieces, but they've rotated them.
Exactly. Which is fine. I normally wouldn't suggest doing that, because if you have things that are just slightly different, it just looks better. I don't know why. Creates a bit more variety. But what we're going to do first and foremost is a clipping path. I know clipping paths are a little bit boring to watch if you're good at them. It's this tool over here. I reckon it's called the pen tool. Yeah. So many words to learn. Okay. And don't worry, I'm not going to do a clipping path of every slice. That would be...
You don't need to, because they're the same.
Exactly. And I'm going to show a few different techniques for doing this. But if I were to get this image from a client, I would do a clipping path for every single piece, because I would want to know that it has been perfectly removed. The reason is sometimes if you, and we are going to use the magic wand tool in a second, but sometimes if you use the magic wand tool, there are rogue pixels left behind.
Right.
When you animate, they start to become an issue. Rogue pixels are no fun. So the way I'm sort of pulling on it like that, I am 97% sure that's called a Bezier curve. Bezier being a French surname, I think. A really good YouTube tutorial to get amongst is how to use Bezier curves. This isn't perfect, as you can see. It doesn't really need to be because of the scale of the image. We just want it to be approximate. We're nearly at the end, fear not, and we'll be speeding up after this. So I'm taking this off the original background as well, but I'm going to switch that up in a second. So that's all connected now. I hit Command Enter to get the little lines.
Nice.
I think you can also right click it and go, oh, this shows how often I do this. Make selection.
This is always great. Whenever an artist like creator comes on and they know the shortcut, they never, ever, ever go into the menus, right? Because why would you? Because you know the shortcut. It's like you're playing the piano and you're just so used to where your hands need to go.
And it's like, I call them outlines. I don't know if that's correct. Please correct me. I do actually like to be corrected. One thing I love to do is feather. And we spoke about this last time. Feather is what it sounds like. It's softening the edges. And I'm actually only going to do it by 1 pixel, which is almost going to be impossible to see. I've just hit copy and paste. And now we have, and I'm going to pop a high contrast background behind it so you can sort of see it. We now have our orange slice with just an ever so soft 1 pixel feather on the edge. And there it is. It's a standalone layer now. I still think about Photoshop layers like pieces of paper on top of each other.
Right, yep.
So imagine I've cut out a picture of an orange and I've put it on the table on top of a black sheet of paper. That's what we've got here. So I can move that piece of paper around. I'm not going to, because I'm going to keep the integrity of the original image because I'm going to pretend that a client has provided it. So the next thing I'm going to do is, I was testing this before, the background color is pretty much a solid. So I know I can recreate that background color. So I've used the eyedrop tool, which I love. Love the eyedrop tool.
So handy.
And then I'm just going to use the paint bucket tool, which is also in, if you ever used paint, it's the same, does the same thing. Drop it like that. And we've created a new layer over here. I'm going to call that cyan. And I just want to quickly point out, if you're like me and you're not great with color names, Wikipedia has the best color pages. It gives you the, like, all the hex codes and the RGBs. And then look at this at the bottom. Look at all those color names.
Oh, that's cool.
I find that so handy because I'm not really super color literate.
Yeah, we talk about like so many different like color resources and everything like that, but I've never thought to go to Wikipedia and go down. But that's so great that it's got like all the different shades down there and everything. Very surprised you find the hex values in there. That's incredible.
It's like a little slice of heaven. So if I ever have a client who's really struggling to describe a color, I encourage them to look at Wikipedia, look at Google, and just send me a picture. And a solid picture. Because sometimes you'll get someone send something like this and they'll say, oh, just orange. It's like, which orange?
Which orange, yeah.
So we've got our orange slice. It's over here. It's lost its shadow, but we're going to add its shadow in After Effects because we do want the shadows. That sort of adds to the illusion. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to duplicate the background. Now, I'm one of those horrible people who doesn't really use masks in Photoshop, but I do use them in After Effects all the time. So I do have a slightly bad habit of making my Photoshop files layer heavy.
Right.
And then creating groups. I'm sorry. It's just how I like to use it.
Is that because of Photoshop, or is that because like how you just prefer to use Photoshop, or is that useful bringing things into After Effects?
It is definitely useful bringing things into After Effects. It's also just how I prefer to use it. I still like to see it as sort of an arts and crafts table. But I can do mask trickery in After Effects. So I do understand what a mask does, but yeah, I just don't tend to, it's just not how I use it. What you will see me doing is always naming layers. This is crucial.
Nice.
You need to do it as you go for a few reasons. One, you'll thank yourself in 3 days when the client says, we want more orange slices, and you open up the file and everything's beautifully named. Secondly, if you need to share the file with someone else, you don't want to get an email where someone's like, hey, do you mind if we have your original working file, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, of course, no worries. You open it up and it's just like weird untitled layers. It's just more work that you have to do down the track.
It's like inviting people over to your house and there's just washing everywhere throughout the trip.
Yeah, which is actually the situation just outside of frame. But yeah, not with Photoshop files. So I've already set up a little sort of workspace here. We're going to pop this in here and we're going to call it orange juice. There's a reason why I have this specific workspace and I will get to it. After Effects inherently encourages neatness because when you're in After Effects, it's not sucking all the files in, correct me if I'm wrong, it's reading where the files are, it's pointing to the original location of the files.
Yeah, it's like packaged to the file location, yeah.
Otherwise, the file, the actual file that you're working on would be huge. Yeah. And you'd need a supercomputer. So it'd be like, I was talking about NASA and computers the other day with friends. It would be a NASA situation. So instead of points back, so therefore if you need to make sure you know where everything is. And there are ways of finding things, but once you start to point into folders, you don't want to rename or move those folders too often. You can retrieve it, you can get it back. There are things you can do, but you're better off setting it up right the first time.
Nice.
Okay, we're going to use the Magic Wand tool, which I don't often recommend using, but in this instance, it's not the end of the world. It's going to speed us up. If I was doing this for a client, I would do clipping piles like we did before with this slice. But for the purpose of today, we can use the Magic Wand. People think the Magic Wand can do everything. It can't. So just use it only when you know it'll work. So basically, I'm clicking the blue, the cyan. Why do I find that word hard to say? And I'm also going to go in, as makeup tutorials on YouTube say, and get rid of the shadow where I need to.
And you're holding something down to do that?
That's such a good question. I am. I'm holding down Shift.
Cool.
And then I'm going to go Shift Command I, which is invert, Command C, Command V, which you would have done Command C, Command V if you've used pretty much any program.
Yeah. Copy
and paste. And now we have our orange layers. So now I'm going to zoom in and I can see the pixels.
Oh, these are the rogue pixels
discussed
earlier.
Pixels. Exactly. So this is why if someone was saying, hey, Greta, we need you to do this file for us, I would not be using the Magic Wand. I'd be doing each slice to get the absolute best result. So this is the eraser tool. And it's a bit like the brush tool. You pick your brush. I'm picking hard round. Sounds a bit serious. And I'm making it 100% opacity, i.e. whatever I erase, it will erase it 100%. And just to show you, 42, it looks like that.
Right.
It's only removing 42%. No, 68%. And leaving 42% behind, I think. 58. Wow.
Maths is hard.
That was all of my head. Okay, so I'm going to now just do this. And I'm moving around the screen by holding spacebar. And I use a Wacom. I'm dragging and just doing this. Now this, you can actually see, it's not beautiful, the result. But
you're very zoomed in when you're doing that, right? Like, because it's so big.
Yeah, what am I at? Yes, that's 300%. So that I'm not happy with if this was something I'd delivered to someone. But for the purpose of today, we'll keep it. And I will actually do a bit of feathering on the image just to help with those. See, it's almost like it is not almost, it's got that sort of pixel feel, which can be an aesthetic as well. But in this instant, I sound like such a goose saying that it can be an aesthetic, but it can. You know, if you're doing something sort of 80s computery, you might want it to have a pixely vibe. So I'm going to select everything. I'm doing Shift Command I, so I'm selecting the outside of each image rather than the inside. And I'm going to feather it once for the whole file. So at this point, we've got a few different ways that we can approach this before we drop it into After Effects. I think I said Illustrator, into After Effects. We need to create individual layers of all of these items. So I could do that with masks, but I don't want to do it like that because I really want each layer to exist on its own. So just how I want it to work for today. But basically a mask would be, if we were to open it in After Effects, you draw a little line around it, and then that would be the only thing that's revealed, but the rest of the image does still exist. Right. But I want it as separate layers today. So the way I do this, and I'd love to know how other people do it, so I just duplicate it out roughly the amount of times I think I need it. And I know my duplicate shortcut is Command E. That is not the built-in one. But I do so much duplication, and that's actually a good trick. If you go Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts, you can plug in your own keyboard shortcuts. So if there is a shortcut that you use all the time, rather than always going to like the drop down, you can just work out what letter works for you and create it. I once had someone reprimand me for this. They were like, what if someone jumps on your Photoshop and they need to use it? I was like, I get that, but I'm not working in an office.
Yeah. How often does that happen?
Right. And that's a great thing about having a Wacom, is not everyone can use them. So it's like built-in laptop security. Okay, I'm going to keep that original orange layers one down there, because I like to keep my original things. And I'm just going to go through this. I'm just drawing, what do we call this? Lasso Tool. Shift Command I, and I'm just making everything its own little layer.
And you can be really quick with the way you're cutting that out now, because you've already deleted all the pixels behind it. So even though we can see the black isn't actually on that layer. So you can just quickly wrap around it, basically delete anything else. Yeah,
these are transparent layers, so I have a bit more freedom with them. Again, imagine a table. Imagine I've actually cut up an orange. That's pretty much what's happening here. It's pieces on top of each other on a table. That's how it looks. There's sort of I don't know why that clunky analogy. Metaphor,
I like that. I think it works really well. Like thinking about that.
Especially when you're new to what are we up to here? I think I just did that one. When you're new to Photoshop or any of these programs, whatever helps you to understand what's going on, embrace it. And we've done that one, and let's do the bottle.
It's very cool. Yeah, Tara in chat. I usually lasso, cut, copy, new layer, paste, but I can see how this would be more efficient. Yeah, me too. I would probably approach it by cutting each individual one out and then pasting it down. But then I'd be switching my tools a lot as well.
Command CV. So the only reason why I don't do that, and sometimes I do, is so this is the original that I've got here. I've selected this orange at the bottom. Watch what happens when I do that. It jumps it over automatically. There might be a way to remove that function. So the reason why I do all these layers is because, again, if this is for a client, they might be married to the position that these pieces of fruit are in. So if I recreate the file and animate it and I've moved everything, they might be like, well, why did we approved this? So I'm trying to kind of keep the integrity and the layout of the original image, is part of the reason why I do this sort of like duplication method. But that does work as well. And you can probably snap it back into place. Let's see. Yeah, you can snap it back into place.
I think paste in place is hold down the shift. What happens if you hold down shift when you paste?
I am learning things. Okay, Command C. Oh, yep. There you go.
Paste in place.
Thanks, everyone.
So it can be done. And as someone was mentioning, Steve was mentioning before, that, yeah, there are lots of different ways to do things, lots of different, like Steve was referencing, cutting things out, which we were talking about before, and Greta's shown us like 2 different methods for that. But yeah, it's incredible how many different ways there are to do things. And it's good to learn them all because each project is a little bit different.
And I would also,
style.
Yeah, and sorry to interrupt you. I would say that sometimes the way you do things is fine. Sometimes you find out that it's slowing you down. So depending on the project, it can be intimidating to have to upskill at the start of a project, but sometimes it's worth going through that pain for it to then be faster down the track.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to really quickly label these. I know this is super, I don't know if that one's, let's just call them all orange slice actually, just for ease. Orange slice 1, 2, I'm just double clicking in here, 3, and then I'm pasting what I've originally written, 4. I know this seems so, but you'll love yourself down the track for doing this.
Yeah, super important. Like obviously when you're bringing things into After Effects, which we'll be doing shortly. I've got a question from chat. Let's see if we can ask it while we're going through. How do you approach sharing your work to reach more people? Is Jackie Winter or an agent like a big help in this regard? It's a big it's a short question, but it's a big answer, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm notoriously terrible at uploading to Instagram and to social media, but I really do think that that's the best way to sort of show people what you do. In terms of getting more work, having someone like Jackie Winter or any sort of representation behind you obviously helps because they're going to promote you, or if a job comes through their door that they think you're appropriate for, they'll pitch with you in mind. But I would definitely suggest using social media. I wouldn't be too worried about a very specific aesthetic. For me, I don't consider myself an artist, so therefore I don't have a really focused vision in terms of what my work will look like, which is again why I wanted to show you this image that, it inherently isn't that fun. But for me, hang on, let me answer the original question. I would say social media and just practicing and making things. The great thing about Instagram now is you can archive. So if you make something and a year later, you're like, oh, my work's better than that now, or different, just get rid of it. No one will know.
Yeah.
It's a really handy tool as you sort of slowly get better.
Nice.
Now, one more thing that we're going to do just before we jump out of this is I'm going to select the word careers, and I'm going to do it with the color range tool just to show you something a little bit different. Color range tool, you get your eyedropper, you pick the color you want, and then this little preview window shows you where else it has picked the color. And I'm pulling it down because I just want the logo. See how it's just the logo in that preview? Sorry, it's a bit hard to see. So if I go Command CV, now if we zoom out, there's going to be more rogue green appearing. Probably easier to see that on white.
Okay, so we can see it looks like a little coffee stain kind of underneath and a little bit around.
Yeah, that's right. Again, if we were doing this as part of a job, I would probably actually ask for the logo and drop it back in. I'd paint this over white. This image is really blown out as well. See how the word with. So if I was
I didn't see the word with on my screen, actually. So
if I was given this, if someone was like, hey, Greta, we've got this image, it's really blown out, help us, I'd draw, let's just do it. I'd draw with back in.
I didn't see it, Yellow or orange on whites.
Not ideal.
Probably not,
I'll just do a quick job of this. I'm just drawing with the paintbrush tool. Right now I'm working out the pixel size that feels about right. Why is that like that? My opacity is down. So let's bring the opacity up too. Now remember, I've got a Wacom, so it's a little bit easier to do. That's not the brush we want. We want this brush. This one has like, see how I can...
Got a bit of a tapered edge there, so you can...
Exactly. And it's controlled with pressure. A bit like my emotions. Okay. Let's do... What am I talking about? I've added the word with in.
Beautiful.
And I'm just going to pixelate that because the rest of the image is a little bit pixelated. Which one do I want to use?
Intentionally pixelating it. I like it. Is that because it's going to stand out more compared to the fresh and the oranges there? Because it has a bit of a...
Yeah.
You know,
I am all about deliberately adding back noise. If an image is a bit gritty and noisy and pixelated and you've done something to it, you want to match that back to the original image. Otherwise there's like a really shiny bit, kind of ruins the illusion that it hasn't been retouched. So if you watch the word with, it's a really extreme amount of noise. Fun, there's definitely a place for doing that, but we want to go a bit more subtle. Four. And again, time permitting, I would even draw in some sort of edges.
Right.
Maybe if we give it a little stroke, which is like a border. It is a border. Stroke is once I worked out what the stroke tool was, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it's called. No, I'm not happy with that. This is the great thing about layer styles. You get to them by, how do I get to them? Double clicking on the layer. You get all these little options: bevel and emboss, stroke, inner shadow, satin, color overlay, gradient overlay. This is fun. I love this part. And you could just test things and try things and you unclick them as you go. See how you feel. It's good because you can it's low risk experimentation. You can play around with it and you're not married to it. So I'm going to save this file. It doesn't really matter how I save it here because all the layers will still exist over in After Effects. Now I'm weary that we only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to do this very quickly.
That's right. Time does go very fast here on Adobe Live.
Alrighty, let's get our background in. Let's reveal all of our layers and let's hit save. And we'll close out of it by Photoshop. Hello, Wikipedia. And we'll come into After Effects. I'm going to create a new composition. So this image now exists over here in my Photoshop file. And I know that my Photoshop folder, will be linked to After Effects the second I do this. Drag and drop. Lovely little pop-up comes up just to hit OK. You've got control of it after the fact. And I'm going to drag this into this area, which definitely has a name and it escapes me. Yep, I still don't know what it is. I tried to work it out for you all. And we have a new composition up here called Orange Juice. And we have still just a flat Photoshop layer. So I'm going to click that and I'm asking to convert this to a layered comp, please. So I want all those layers that we just worked on to come back to life. So again, that's dragging down into here, create, convert to layered comp. It's called Orange Juice 2, that's fine. I can actually delete that original, open it like that. Let's call it Orange Juice. If you rename up here in the project area, it will be reflected down here. It talks back to it straight away. And now we have all of our beautiful layers.
Nice.
Ready for animating.
And look, then labeled, which is just...
And they're labeled. Heaven on earth. We love it. So let's do some really quick animating on this. What have I got in my notes? Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to get all the pieces of orange to come out from behind the bottle. And to do that, it's pretty straightforward, but it's often a lot of the really special stuff that you see in After Effects is position, rotation, scale, opacity. There's way more that you can do, but these sort of basics are going to serve you really well. So the invisible magical client has said to me they want the image to finish like this. So as a result, I'm going to mark in all of these points. That's the position as it is. So I've hit P to reveal position. I hit R to reveal rotation, and I hit S to reveal scale. And if I hit U, which sounds aggressive.
What did I do?
Exactly, I know. It's not the way to solve problems.
I'm sure I did something.
You never know. You can see them all, and these are called keyframes. I swear last time we did this, I could not remember the word keyframe.
After Effects is my favorite for people coming up with their own names for everything. Like so many people like, cool, grab the little Kilroy dude, or the little hurricane.
Great. The little, yeah. There are so many things that you can do that sometimes you're just doing them without knowing what they're called.
Totally.
Which is, I don't know if that's good or bad.
It's great because you've learnt it, you figured it out yourself, and you just naturally know where they are. They don't need a name when you know that.
Pros and cons.
True.
It instantly becomes a problem when I'm doing something like this. I'm like, all right, I'm going to run my mouse now down all of these little keyframe points. And what I've just done is I've locked in the position that these are in 2 seconds into the file. I'm going to bring this cursor back. You can also hit home if you have home on your keyboard. It goes back to this 0 point. This file, by the way, is 20 seconds long. Have a look at the composition settings. It's 4,000 by 5,000 pixels, which I'm not going to lie is a bit big. Wouldn't normally quite work in this size. I'm actually going to make it shorter. Let's make it 10 seconds. And we're working at 25 frames per second. That's an Australian standard. I like it because it's divisible by 5. It's easy maths for me. There's lots of frame rates.
What's the non-Australian standard? Is it 30? Or
is 29.97?
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Or do Americans use 23? Yeah, there are other ones, and it really makes no difference. But for me, when I'm moving keyframes, I'm often moving them in 5 to 10 to 15 frames.
Right.
Because it looks pretty and it makes sense in my head. Sometimes I work outside of those parameters, but it's just a habit that I have. All right. Let's do this really quickly. Let's take orange slice 1. So that's the other really nice thing about having separate layers. It's giving me the anchor point right in the center, which is great because I'm going to be moving it based on the center of this image as opposed to changing the anchor point to somewhere else. I want it to be in the center. And I'm going to move this orange slice behind the bottle. Now the bottle's right here, it's on the top. So if I take it, basically this is the start where the animation starts. I want this orange slice to start from behind the bottle. But that looks silly, right? Because I can fully see it. So I'm going to scale it down.
It's trying to hide.
Yeah, I want it to be hidden at the start. So I'm just going to scale it behind. And I'm just going to add a bit of a rotation that just feels good. Just whatever I want, basically.
That's cool. So you can just do the rotation by clicking and then just dragging your mouse or your cursor across to the left or the right. Nice.
Oh, yeah. And do you know what I've been really getting into? This sounds like it's going to be X-rated, but it's not. Is maths within this section. So I might want to do plus 50. Right. You can actually do equations within here, which I just think is so cool.
Right, so if you wanted something specifically to be 45-degree angle or something, you can just press it, click into it, put in plus 45.
And there's a little trick that I'm going to show on Thursday, which is called shape repeating and having shapes sort of spinning. So if you say have 8 circles and you want them to be evenly spread out in a circle, you do 360 divided by 8 and it does it for you.
Cool.
And I used to jump into Google and do it in Google, or do it on the, I obviously know what that is, it's 45, but just from experience, or I do it on the calculator on my phone. But then when I discovered I could do it within the application, I was like, within the program, I was like, this is great. Yep. So let's have a look at this animation. It's starting with a -157 rotation, the scale's 58, the position is different. If I hit spacebar, we see that.
Cool.
Now, it's fine, but we can make it feel a little bit more special by using, and we were talking about this before, Ease and Whiz. Ease and Whiz is a plugin that basically, I'll show you. So at the moment, it's just moving at a true, flat, and steady rate. But if I make the position Expo, which is the most rapid one, it's going to shoot out now. It won't come out straight away, but when it does, it'll come out with passion. Oh,
right.
It looks wonderful. You can manually do this in here. I am not an expert at that. I was saying earlier, I really need to become more familiar with that part of After Effects. I'm going to do the rotation, but I'm going to do at the opposite end, I'm going to do the sine. And I'm going to pull that point out a bit so that when it lands, it's still got a little bit of rotation to go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, nice. Really simple things. And I might also get it to be at full scale. Let's just pick another one at random. So all these position, scale, and rotation are all just happening at a they've got just a different, come on, I can think of the word, ease. They've all got a slightly different ease. Lovely.
That's great.
We might want that to be a little bit faster overall. We might want it to start, if I hold shift and page down, it jumps 10 frames.
Shift and page down.
Yeah. Jumps exactly 10 frames.
Wow.
Page
down is not a key that gets a lot of love.
I stole this keyboard off an ex. Sorry, everyone. You know, these are the things that you have to do. And I love it. I'm obsessed with it now. It's like I think it's for a Mac desktop from the past. Whew, it's a big keyboard. So there we have it. So what I would do now is go through and do this for all the assets. And I'll just do it really quickly. So we're moving the position. Let's do all the positions first.
And while we're doing that, I'll just mention Johanna has shared the link to Ease and Whiz in there, and it's by our good friend Ian Haig. So you can check that out. Last I checked, I'm pretty sure it's free, but you can donate if you want. So if you're a student or something like that, you want to test it out, have a go because it's very useful. There's a very funny story about creating Ease and Whiz, which I'm sure I will butcher. So I won't do it. I'm just setting myself up to tell some long story, and I'm not going to do it.
I am now going to quickly change the scale of all of these so they're hidden. This is a trick I've only learned, maybe in the last 6 months, and I love it. This little dot solo. Ooh, I feel like if I knew Star Wars well, there would be a joke to be made. If I hit it here, now all I can see is this orange slice. And if I hit the bottle, now I can see how much I need to scale down the orange slice.
Oh, cool.
So let's make it 80. No, let's do more. You can sort of see those guide boxes there as well. And I'm going to quickly go through and do this with all of them.
That's great. So it makes things far less complicated, like for us visual people, to just isolate the elements that you're trying to deal with and not all the other ones, and worrying about like clicking the wrong thing or scaling the wrong thing, especially because it's hidden behind the orange juice.
Now you could also hide it with track mats, with masks, with all sorts of things, but I don't actually need to. The bottle is there, the bottle is doing the job. The bottle doesn't have an opacity, i.e. it's solid. So there's sort of no need to do any trickery. again, it's using this program in the same way that you would use the way I talk about Photoshop and it being on a table. It's like putting a bottle down and tucking everything underneath it. So that's all set up and ready to go. I don't think I've done anything fancy with the rotation. And for the sake of time, I'll just make everything. And you can do this. The other great thing about ease and wears, I know that these have had sort of ease applied to them because they're red.
Right.
So I just select everything else that's blue and I'll just make them all quad just for today. And now when we hit play, wow, everything comes out. So we've only got rotation on one of the assets, but it's already starting to feel a little bit more special.
So great. I love that you can add, do it for one of these assets, and you want them to be similar or the same, and then you just apply it to every single layer instantly.
And you can actually copy and paste these values as well. I won't do that today because they're all in different positions. But if everything's sort of going the same way and doing the same thing, and I'm just randomly moving these, just to give it a bit of variety. When everything's uniform, you can tell. The human eye instantly sees that.
Right. So if they're all exactly the same, it's a bit off.
So sometimes I'll do this really meticulously. Sometimes I will just be a bit random like today. I'm hitting the tilde key.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that. Tilde, I say, but I could be wrong. I have no idea if it's right or not.
I love Tilda Swinton, so I'm happy to say Tilda. It just goes, whoop, and that's how I go into sections to view them.
Very cool. I'll let you know we have about 3 minutes left.
So here's what we're going to do in that 3 minutes. We're going to parent these two parts, which are going to come into play on Thursday, to the bottle. So whatever the bottle does, they'll do as well. And at the very start here, we're going to give the bottle a little bit of rotation. So it starts like that, -11. At this point, we'll have it over here at 5. Let's bring it back to -3, +3, -1, 0. I'm going to make that sign the softest one, and now the bottle will shake a little bit as everything comes out of it. It's not perfect, nice, and we could refine that, but it gives and I can see a little bit of an orange behind there, but it gives the whole thing a little bit more intent, like it's everything's moving now. So what we'll be doing for Thursday, and on Thursday it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to have a bit more of here's what I've prepared earlier.
Right. Okay.
But it's what we're going to do is take this image and we're going to animate the logo that you see on the bottle, and then we're going to bring in text and messaging, which brands often ask for. So we're just going to make it feel a little bit cooler. We're going to use the blue color. We're going to use the orange color. We're going to pick a font and just start to build it out so it feels like a fully fledged asset that could go onto Instagram, as opposed to this cute but not super, this doesn't tell a story.
Right.
Like, is this for sale? What is this? Why am I watching this animation? So by Thursday, it's going to feel a bit more like something you could deliver to someone and actually see and use on the information superhighway.
That is awesome and perfect timing because we are out of time. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Greta. That was heaps of fun.
I hope it was okay. I know some of that stuff is basic, but all the position, rotation, scale, I think are a lot of the foundation for After Effects if you're creating assets like this.
Absolutely, and it's a really good point, and it's fantastic. It wasn't too basic. There's a bunch of things in there I didn't know, so I'm sure it's helping lots of people out there. Thank you everyone for joining us. Just a quick shout out, and speaking of Tilda, she is speaking at Adobe Max, which is now, the website is live, so there you go, Greta, you can go and check that out. So if you want more Tilda Key or Tilda the speaker, check out Adobe Max. There's a link down below if you're watching this on YouTube as well. We hope to see you there. It's coming in October, and we will be back with Greta here on Adobe Live on Thursday. And so we hope you can join us. And thank you again so much, Greta, for joining us.
My pleasure. And I'm looking forward to Thursday.
See you then. Bye, everyone.
All right.